What if the strangest stories weren't just found in horror novels or sci-fi thrillers, but tucked away in the real-life history of your own backyard? From phantom barbers and ghostly lights to spontaneous combustion, underground tunnel networks, and mysterious vanishings that baffle even the most seasoned investigators. America is teeming with chilling tales that defy logic, science, and explanation. How does a woman's body burn to ash in a room that remains untouched by flame? Why would an entire choir of 15 people all be mysteriously late, just minutes before their church explodes? And how does a man go from party-loving furniture salesman to mathematical genius overnight after a brutal assault? Every state in America holds a secret, some hidden in the shadows of long-forgotten towns, others buried in official case files that no one dares to revisit. Some of these stories are rooted in folklore, others in unsolved crime, and a few are so bizarre they've earned their place in paranormal legend. Whether it's a haunted railroad in Arkansas or a mysterious cult-linked disappearance in Kansas, these events force us to ask, what really happened? And could it happen again? You'll meet victims who vanished without a trace, killers who were never caught, and unexplained phenomena that leave even scientists shaking their heads. Some tales are terrifying, others are tragic, a few are downright surreal, but all of them challenge our understanding of what's real, what's possible, and what lies just beyond the veil of the known world. So buckle up, keep your flashlight close, and maybe, just maybe, don't watch this alone in the dark. Because we're about to take a deep dive into 50 of the most haunting unsolved mysteries from every single U.S. state. Let's begin in Alabama. On the rain-soaked night of March 3, 1956, brothers Billy Howard Dye, 19, and Robert Earl Dye, 23, along with their cousin Dan Brasher, 38, left a relative's home in rural Jefferson County, Alabama, heading toward a gathering near Robinwood. They were last seen in Billy's green 1947 Ford, but after that, nothing, no sighting, no word. Given their heavy drinking and frequent disappearance to recover from binges, no one immediately raised an alarm. But as days passed and paychecks went uncollected, anxiety grew. A tip came from one neighbor who heard gunshots the night of the disappearance. Another reported men moving water containers at dawn near the party site. Even more chilling, someone claimed to have seen a bulldozer burying a car under Highway 79, still under construction. These threads led detectives on wild goose chases through mud and mystery. The family's lawyer-turned-investigator, Curtis Brasher, refused to let the case fade. He pressured authorities, including writing to J. Edgar Hoover, and eventually secured a permanent assignment from Deputy Tom Ellison. They drilled boreholes in the highway and brought into Navy metal detectors, but every search came up empty. Still, the belief endures. The Ford and the bodies lie buried beneath the concrete. Moonshine whispers swirl through old journals. Perhaps the cousins stole from local bootleggers, paying with their lives. Some believe bodies were dumped into a mine shaft. Others say they never left the pavement. A 1984 confession by T.J. Chamblee mentioned disposing of the trio in a coal mine, but he later recanted, and no evidence corroborated his claim. To this day, Alabama's oldest active cold case remains a ghost story whispered among Appalachian hollows. Alaska, the investor murders. On the stormy evening of September 5th, 1982, the 58-foot fishing boat investor, captained by 28-year-old Mark Colthurst of Blaine, Washington, docked in Craig, Alaska, to mark the end of salmon season. On board were his pregnant wife Irene, their 2 children, ages 4 and 5, and 4 teenage deckhands. They celebrated Mark's birthday with locals, then returned to the boat just before the storm hit. Hours later, a killer crept aboard under cover of darkness and executed every soul aboard with .22 caliber gunfire. The gunman then quietly piloted the burning ship to Fish Egg Island, abandoned it, set it ablaze with gasoline, and disappeared on a skiff, blending into the fog. The next morning, residents found the wreck engulfed in flames, with bodies charred beyond recognition. Investigators soon focused on John Kenneth Peel, a former deckhand who had worked for Colthurst and was in Craig at the time. He resembled the composite sketch, had left town under mysterious circumstances, and failed a polygraph. Yet despite circumstantial suspicion, 2 jury trials, 1986 and 1988, failed to convict him. He later sued for wrongful prosecution and was awarded almost $900,000. Today, the Alaska State Troopers officially consider the case closed, but families of the victims and locals refuse to move on. A $15,000 reward was once offered by fishermen. New forensic techniques linger untapped, and the People magazine Investigates series revisited the crime, affirming what everyone suspects. Someone knows, but no one is talking. Arizona, the vanishing of Robert Fiser. April 10, 2001, Scottsdale, Arizona, was a night of tragedy and disappearance. A violent explosion shattered the serenity of a family home. Inside were the bodies of Mary's wife and 2 children, murdered with a shotgun blast, the house rigged to explode as a gruesome diversion. The home blew apart, consumed in flames, while the only suspect, Robert William Fiser, born 1961, disappeared without a trace. Fiser's experience as an electrician was evident in the meticulous wiring used to detonate the home from a safe distance just minutes after he fled. Despite extensive searches in the desert and multiple reported sightings under aliases, no confirmed trace has ever been found. Some experts suspect he may have perished while trying to melt into obscurity. The FBI put Fiser on its 10 most wanted list and offered a $100,000 reward. Yet 2 decades later, the clues are as cold as the desert nights yet to pass. Toying with false records and unconfirmed aliases, Fiser has slipped through cracks and crossed borders, leaving investigators chasing shadows in Arizona, Mexico, and beyond. The case remains open, but Fiser's trail has gone silent. Could a tip from a desert hermit or a false ID in a South American border town crack the case? Until then, the man who eliminated his own family remains one of America's most haunting unanswered questions. Arkansas, the Gurdon Light. Beneath a stretch of abandoned Missouri Pacific Railroad near Girden, Arkansas, something inexplicably appears each fall, a floating, glowing orb that dances silently above the tracks, visible even from miles away. This eerie ghost light has been captured by local photographers and visitors who say it shifts in color from pale blue to pumpkin orange and glides with an almost artificial precision. Legend ties the apparition to William McLean, a railroad foreman beaten to death in 1931. According to lore, McLean's severed head was never found, and his spirit, clutching a lantern, roams the tracks searching for it. The story was compelling enough to feature on Unsolved Mysteries in 1994, boosting interest and local tourism. Scientific minds have offered geological explanations. One theory is the piezoelectric effect. Stress on quartz crystals underground generates weak electrical discharges. As Girden sits on a top quartz-rich substrate near the New Madrid seismic zone, it's plausible that minor tectonic shifts could trigger luminous phenomena, akin to earthquake lights. Skeptics have ruled out common hypotheses like car headlights and swamp gas. Filters tested on the light show no polarization, unlike vehicle lights, and its appearance in varied weather contradicts swamp gas behavior. Over a 4-mile stretch of track, it consistently emerges, beckoning ghost hunters and scientists to witness a phenomenon that remains delightfully mysterious. California, the Alcatraz escape mystery. The cold, forbidding walls of Alcatraz were never thought to be vulnerable, yet in June 1962, 3 inmates pulled off what officials called the only plausible escape in the island's history. John and Clarence Anglin, alongside Frank Morris, carved through ventilation shafts, slipped past barbed wire fences, and launched into San Francisco Bay on a raft made from 50 raincoats. They left behind eerie mannequins and beds to delay discovery. The U.S. Marshals pursued leads for years. A letter allegedly from John Anglin surfaced in 2013, claiming survival and death of his counterparts in 2008 and 2011. He offered to surrender if he received medical treatment and a short sentence, although handwriting and DNA analysis were inconclusive, and the lead was dismissed. Sightings and rumors continued to surface. In the mid-1960s, federal agents tracked a rumor of Clarence in Brazil. In 1975, a family friend claimed to recognize the brothers in a photo from a farm in Rio. They even allegedly received Christmas cards with matching handwriting from 1962 to the mid-1960s. In 2015, age-progressed drawings were released, and in 2020, renewed investigations began using AI to analyze potential movements and identity matches. Officially, the FBI closed its file in 1979, concluding they likely drowned, but the marshal's warrant remains active, with growing evidence fueling speculation that they may have indeed outsmarted the Rock. Colorado, the Black Forest haunting. In 1992, Steve and Beth Lee moved into a secluded log house on 5 acres within Colorado Springs' dense Black Forest. Their dream home transformed into a nightmare within weeks. Flickering lights danced across rooms, power outlets flickered on and off, and shadows swirled at the edges of vision. The family initially suspected a prank or electrical sabotage. Then came sounds, heavy footsteps on rooftops, chains dragging across floors, and eerie whispers moving through the halls. Their children reported flashes of light and mysterious odors that burned the senses. No smoke, no appliances involved. Paranormal investigators visited and recorded EMF spikes, cold spots, and EVP sessions that revealed disembodied moans and footsteps. One theory, abundant mineral water and quartz in the soil, could act as paranormal conductors in ley line hotspots. A Hopi shaman suggested the property might sit on a fracture between realms, a rip in reality itself. The Lees still live there. Over 30 years later, the hauntings persist. They continue to record audio, track electrical anomalies, and hold on to the hope of understanding what dwells in their home. Interviews and documentaries explore the case, each adding layers to a haunting that defies science and reason. Connecticut, the shallow graves beneath New Haven Green. In late October 2012, Hurricane Sandy uprooted a grand oak, nicknamed the Lincoln Oak, on New Haven Green. Tangled in its root ball was a human skull, partially intact and obviously centuries old. The discovery stunned city officials and archaeologists alike, prompting a full excavation beneath the venerable elm-lined common. The dig revealed more than just one skeleton. Within the root mat, fragile fragments emerged: coffin nails, baby teeth, wood splinters, proving this was no isolated grave. The remains spanned all ages, from infants to adults, buried just inches below the lawn. And it turns out, New Haven Green served as the city's official burial ground from 1638 to circa 1821, when headstones were relocated but bodies were left behind. University of Connecticut anthropologist Dr. Dennis Bellantoni noted that the root mat's shallow excavation didn't disturb the graves, which were only 6 inches deep due to repeated landscaping over centuries. Analysis revealed many skeletons bore signs of disease, with enamel hypoplasia and brittle bones hinting at childhood illness. potentially yellow fever or smallpox, epidemics that devastated the city during colonial times. Now, New Haven faces a conundrum. How to honor these forgotten dead? Ground-penetrating radar has become essential when planning events or renovations. Yet their stories linger silently beneath manicured lawns, reminding us that history isn't always buried deep. It waits just below the surface. Delaware, the murder of Jane Marie Pritchard. On September 20th, 1986, 28-year-old botanist Jane Marie Pritchard set out to study rare hog peanut plants in Blackbird State Forest, near Smyrna, Delaware. She was discovered later that evening, partially clothed, with a fatal shotgun wound to the back, a victim of calculated violence, not an accident. In the weeks following, police investigated a local squirrel hunter who'd been the last to see her alive. Though inconsistencies in his story led to arrest, the case collapsed when DNA evidence from hair samples excluded him. Over 300 interviews yielded no suspect, just frustration. Despite the exhaustive initial efforts, the case cooled off until 2014, when Newcastle County's new cold case squad reopened the file. With physical evidence like hair and shell casings archived, forensic experts remain hopeful that modern DNA techniques might someday name her killer. Today, a $20,000 reward still stands, and the University Botanical Gardens, where Jane worked, honor her with a plaque. For her brother, Keith, and friends, Jane's memory fuels a quiet hope that advanced science will one day bring justice to this dedicated young scientist. Florida, the spontaneous combustion of Mary Reer. The morning of July 2, 1951, began with a telegram delivery to Mary Hardy Reeser's St. Petersburg apartment. But when the landlady touched the doorknob, it was unnaturally hot. Inside lay Mary's remains, basically a pile of white ash, save for a shrunken skull, a backbone fragment, and her left foot still clad in a slipper. What stunned investigators was how extreme heat seemed, concentrated on Mary alone. Plastic and light switches were warped, but walls, windows, even a stack of newspapers inches away remained intact. The apartment looked normal, except for the charred chair springs and ashes where Mary sat. The FBI ruled it a tragic accident triggered by the wick effect. Mary, a user of sedatives and smoker, likely dozed with a lit cigarette. Burning her rayon nightdress, the fat-soaked fabric smoldered her body slowly, like a candle, while the fire never spread beyond her form. This theory remains the leading explanation among fire experts and skeptics alike. Still, skeptics ask, why wasn't there a surge of similar deaths? Anthropologist Wilton Krogman, brought in by the FBI, argued the scenario defies normal cremation and suggested foul play could be involved. Decades later, the Cinder Lady remains one of America's most chilling, an unsolved tragedy that blurs the line between science and the supernatural. Hawaii. What happened to Lisa Au? On January 31st, 1982, 19-year-old Lisa Au, an aspiring hairdresser and high school graduate, disappeared after her blue Mazda was discovered abandoned along the Tantalus Drive overlooking Honolulu. Police launched a massive search, but 10 days later, her naked, decomposed body was found in a ravine below the roadway. The coroner could not determine her cause of death, but homicide was suspected from the start. Rumors persisted for years that Lisa may have been lured under the pretense of a police warning. Some witnesses described a patrol-style car, or someone in uniform, tempted her to stop. A Honolulu police detective later admitted the case was mishandled at the beginning, allowing crucial evidence to disappear into bureaucracy. More than 4 decades later, this remains one of Hawaii's most notorious unsolved murders. Be it a stranger, someone uniformed, or a cruel twist of fate, no one has been arrested. Occasional renewed interest sparks tips, but none have yielded justice. Idaho. Strange mutilations in Jerome and Bliss. Beginning in the 1970s, the peaceful communities of Jerome and Bliss, Idaho, were thrown into turmoil by grotesque reports of mutilated cattle, deer, and even humans. Victims were often drained of blood, organs removed with surgical precision, yet no footprints, vehicles, or human DNA were ever found at the scenes. Ranchers and townsfolk whispered of cult rituals, UFO abductions, or secret government experiments. One haunting report described a half-decapitated cow strewn across a field, its eyeballs and tongue surgically removed, no stray blood visible, nothing but eerie stillness. Law enforcement held fast to the cult killings theory, but never made an arrest. The FBI file from the 1970s labeled it animal mutilation, focusing on cattle, and repeatedly flagged missing federal jurisdiction. Official finger-pointing oscillated between natural decomposition or scavenger activity and something far more sinister. Decades later, these mutilations remain an unsettling mystery. No definitive motive, no perpetrator, no human trace. Just hushed conversations between farmers and carcasses left in quiet fields long after the blood dried. Illinois, the Mad Gasser of Matune. Over 2 tense weeks in early September 1944, the town of Matune, Illinois was besieged by an unseen threat. Residents awoke to nausea, vomiting, paralysis, and a faint smell of chemicals in their homes. Victims spoke of waking up unable to move, gasped in their sleep as they slumbered through a nightmare. Widespread panic ensued. Vigilante patrols armed with shotguns roamed the streets. Parents followed children with bats. The police formed task forces, yet no physical evidence, no suspects, no chemical residue, no weapon was ever recovered. Theories stoked imaginations. Chemical warfare experiments, a deranged chemist prowling the night, even a Japanese saboteur surfacing during the final years of World War II. One suspect, a local high school science whiz, was investigated but never charged. In the end, investigators pointed to mass hysteria and a shifting wind pattern that funneled fertilizer plant fumes into open windows. To this day, the Mad Gasser's identity remains a riddle. Was it a real criminal or a collective hallucination of fear in wartime America? Matune remains haunted by the memory of silent gas attacks in the night. Indiana, the mysterious fire poltergeist of Odin. In April 1940, the farm of William and Minnie Hackler in Odin, Indiana erupted in chaos, 28 times in one day. Flames would burst into existence in cleared rooms, only to be extinguished, then flare up somewhere else. Smoke poured from chimneys and windows alternately throughout the day. Firemen were baffled. The fires started deeper in walls, moving room to room, with no accelerant found. No wiring issues, no open flames, just spontaneous ignition. Some local believers whispered of a fire poltergeist, while others floated theories of insurance fraud or human trickery. Investigators reviewed each flare-up, even bringing state experts. But every autopsy of debris and floorboard told the same story. Unexplained ignition, no point of origin. After 28 episodes, the phenomenon suddenly ceased, and the haunted farmhouse was torn down. Local lore held that the Hacklers buried no witches and sold the land quietly. Today, the fire poltergeist is part of Indiana's folklore canon, a reminder that some mysteries aren't soothed by science, and some flames aren't triggered by human hands. Iowa, the boy with no appetite. In October 2013, 12-year-old Landon Jones from Cedar Falls, Iowa, suddenly lost the ability to feel hunger or thirst following a severe bacterial infection in his left lung. He awoke dizzy and congested one morning, and shortly afterward Despite tasting and consuming food, he experienced zero appetite or thirst. The change baffled doctors and left him wasting away, from 104 pounds to just 68 pounds in under a year. Over the next year, Landon underwent exhaustive testing across 5 different medical centers, including the Mayo Clinic. Brain scans, spinal taps, psychiatric evaluations, all came back inconclusive. Specialists suspected hypothalamic damage, an area of the brain that controls hunger, thirst, and body temperature, possibly from the infection breaching the blood-brain barrier. Doctors theorize Landon may have impaired ghrelin or leptin hormone signaling, which regulate hunger and satiety, but these explanations only partially account for his lack of thirst. In 2014, his parents considered a feeding tube to prevent further weight loss. The case remains unique. Landon may be the only documented person with this condition. Despite ongoing efforts, no definitive diagnosis has been made. The NIH's Rare Disease Division was consulted. But as of the latest public updates, Landon's condition remains a medical mystery. His story underscores how fragile human physiology can be, and how science still has much to uncover when systems fail unexpectedly. Kansas, the disappearance of Randy Leech. On June 27, 1988, 17-year-old Randy Wayne Leech departed for a house party in rural Leavenworth County, Kansas, and never returned. His 1985 Dodge 500 was later found abandoned, and shortly thereafter, the party house burned to the ground under suspicious circumstances. Within days, rumors swirled of satanic cult involvement. A witness claimed to have been abducted, held in a cave, and shown Randy's corpse, but no evidence surfaced upon investigation. In 1993, 3 men were arrested for his murder, but released after scant evidence. The local KBI labeled it the most baffling case they'd ever seen. No body, no motive, no trace. Over decades, the case saw brief flare-ups. Police reopened it in 2002, offered rewards, examined caves, and conducted renewed interviews. A severed foot found in 1989 near the Kansas River was not Randy's. His last-day movements remain murky. He reportedly drove slowly past his parents' house at 6:30 p.m., but vanished en route to the party. Randy was declared legally dead in 2001, but his parents, especially his mother Alberta, continued seeking answers until Harold's passing in 2021. With their deaths and no fresh leads, investigators now face a silent trail. The case remains open, and the Kansas night keeps its secret. Kentucky, the Great Meat Shower. On March 3, 1876, around 11 a.m. on a sunny morning in Bath County, Kentucky, large chunks of red meat, ranging 2 to 4 inches across, fell from a clear sky onto a 100 by 50-yard area near Olympia Springs. Mrs. Crouch and others witnessed meat like large snowflakes raining down, prompting astonishment, and some residents even tasted it. Samples collected by the Newark Scientific Association showed mixed tissues. Some pieces were identified as lung tissue, possibly equine or infant, others as muscle or cartilage. Some scientists hypothesized nostoc, an algae that swells in rain, as the culprit. Another popular theory: vultures disgorged food mid-flight to lighten their load. This vulture ejecta explanation aligns with the varied tissue types and lack of rain during the event. Yet, no conclusive answer emerged then or since. The event gained national headlines, featured in Scientific American and the New York Times. Today, Bath County keeps a jar of the meat at the local history museum. The Kentucky Meat Shower remains a quirky chapter in meteorological mystery, and a reminder that sometimes the sky holds more than weather. Louisiana, the unknowable Marie Laveau. Marie Catherine Laveau, born in 1801 in New Orleans, became the legendary Voodoo Queen, a powerful herbalist, midwife, and spiritual leader who fused African cosmology with Catholic ritual. Though documented as a devout community pillar, folklore transformed her into a supernatural icon, capable of curses, miracles, even immortality. Her influence extended into elite white society. She doubled as a hairdresser, granting her confidences that fueled both spiritual guidance and social sway. She held integrated St. John's Eve ceremonies, ministered to prisoners, and nurtured the sick during yellow fever epidemics. But separating myth from history is tricky. Many tales, like her supposed immortality, likely stem from confusion between her and her daughter, Marie Laveau II, who continued the voodoo legacy. Today, her tomb in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 remains adorned with hundreds of X's, supposed wish marks, signifying that believers still seek her favor. Marie Laveau's real mystery isn't whether she casts spells, it's how her true legacy merged with legend to become a lasting symbol of New Orleans itself. Her story reveals how folklore, faith, and cultural identity intertwine, and how some legacies are too powerful to bury. Maine. What happened to Sarah Ware? In September 1898, Sarah Ware, a 52-year-old house cleaner from Bucksport, Maine, vanished without explanation. She left home for her usual walk, but didn't return. Days later, her nearly skeletal body was found alongside a rural road, head missing and hands bound, a chilling tableau that sparked horror throughout the quiet coastal town. Local rumblings pointed toward neighbor William Trewargy, with whom Ware had feuded. Yet, despite 15 recorded testimonies, unclear motives, and circumstantial evidence, authorities never produced enough proof to bring charges. The coroner's inquest hinted at murder, but no killer was ever found. A century later, folklore took hold. Locals claimed Ware's restless spirit wanders the fields near Silver Lake on moonlit nights, seeking justice. Podcasts and paranormal investigations have revisited the case, but no conclusive evidence has surfaced to confirm or dispel the legend. Today, Sarah Ware is remembered through an obscure plaque in town and the haunting oral tradition passed down in Bucksport. Her case is a stark reminder that sometimes the worst crimes aren't recorded in courtroom transcripts, but in the unsettled whispers of a sleepy town. Maryland, the House of Horrors. In September 2017, investigators made a gruesome discovery beneath a Bethesda home, a network of claustrophobic tunnels being excavated by Askia Kafra, 21, hired to build what he believed was a personal nuclear fallout shelter for owner Daniel Beckwith. Kafra perished in a fire underground, and his body was found charred in the basement weeks later. Authorities charged Beckwith with second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. They argued Kafra died due to gross negligence. The tunnels were unsafe, booby-trapped, and built without permits. In April 2019, Beckwith received a 9-year sentence. In January 2021, Maryland's Court of Appeals threw out the murder conviction, but upheld manslaughter, ruling Beckwith didn't exhibit extreme recklessness. His sentence was reduced to 5 years, accounting for time served. He was released in mid-2022, amid criticism for leniency from Kafra's father and the public. Even after conviction, mystery shrouds the case. What was Beckwith's true motive? Was he planning a legitimate bunker or indulging a paranoid fantasy? The tunnel's tangle of lies, money, and death beneath a suburban home remains a surreal testament to how extraordinary secrets can be buried behind a facade of normalcy. Massachusetts, the Black Flash of Provincetown. From 1938 to 1945, Cape Cod was gripped by terror when children began reporting a creature, the Black Flash, prowling Provincetown at night. Described as 8 feet tall, clad in black, with flaming blue eyes and spring-like footwear. The being reportedly leaped over fences, spooked adults, and even spurted fire-like flames. Newspaper coverage intensified in late 1939. The Provincetown Advocate and Boston Globe documented accounts of the Flash chasing children, stalking playgrounds, and mocking police. Even officers claimed to see a silver-masked face and hear buzzing, but when confronted, the figure would make impossible jumps and vanish into night. Theories swirled. Some saw it as mass hysteria, born from pre-World War II anxieties. Others feared a prankster or group of pranksters, using clever illusions. Town officials, like then-Chief Tarvers, downplayed sightings, framing them as youthful mischief run wild. After 1945, reports of the Black Flash ceased, except an oral legend passed to tourists, ghost tours, and paranormal enthusiasts. Though likely a product of social fear and folklore, the Black Flash endures, a shadow of collective fright that defied explanation. Michigan, the Paulding Light. Since the 1960s, northern Michigan's Paulding, not far from Watersmeet, has attracted onlookers for a strange luminescence, a glowing orb that bounces mysteriously in a forest valley near an old rail line and power poles. Witnesses describe it as shifting colors, red, white, green, and behaving erratically. Folklore credits the light to a railroad brakeman's ghost carrying a lantern. Some link it to Ojibwe legends of spirits dancing on the wires. Others say it's the soul of a displaced mail courier. For many, the supernatural remains part of the thrill. In 2010, Michigan Tech students led by Jeremy Boss demonstrated that the Paulding Light aligns with vehicle headlights on distant US 45. Spectrographic analysis confirmed a match in color, timing, and trajectory. Yet local belief remains unshaken. Today, tourists continue to gather at the designated viewing spot off Robbins Pond Road, flashlights ready and cameras aimed. Whether ghost or glare, the Paulding Light invites us to stand at the boundary between legend and logic. It reminds us that sometimes the sky offers a story we're not ready to let go. Missouri. How Robert Rafford likely contracted AIDS. In May 1969, 16-year-old Robert Lee Rafford from St. Louis, Missouri, became one of the first recorded cases of AIDS-related death in North America. Admitted to City Hospital in late 1968, he suffered from extreme weight loss, pneumonia, swollen testicles, and rare Kaposi's sarcoma lesions, symptoms unheard of in black adolescents at the time. Doctors were baffled. Robert had no history of travel, transfusions, or known high-risk behavior. But tests in 1973 and again in 1988 hinted at an HIV-like virus in his preserved tissue samples. In 1999, a DNA profile revealed similarities to later-known HIV strains, though the data was never confirmed in a peer-reviewed journal. Some researchers propose Robert may have been sexually abused at a young age, given scarring on his anus noted during autopsy. However, the true mode of infection remains unknown and may never be fully understood. Rafford's case shifted the narrative on AIDS origin in the U.S., revealing that HIV was present in the Midwest long before the epidemic hit coastal cities. His death challenges our assumptions, reminding us how much remains undiscovered in medicine's timeline. Montana, the Vortex, and House of Mystery. Just 13 miles from Glacier National Park lies Columbia Falls' famous tourist attraction, the Montana Vortex and House of Mystery, where gravity and logic seem to take a vacation. Visitors report feeling their bodies shift in size and weight as they walk through a tilted cabin and its surrounding grounds. Inside the shack, floors are slanted at 18 degrees, walls lean eerily, and optical illusions defy common sense. Marbles appear to roll uphill, brooms stand upright, and people seem to grow or shrink, sometimes depending just on where they stand. Owner Joe Hauser claims the site sits on a gravitational anomaly in the Earth's electromagnetic field, caused by geological vortex energy. Tours offer aura spots, hexagons, platforms, and mystery domains meant to amplify this unnatural energy. Skeptical scientists argue it's a cleverly built mystery spot, an architectural optical illusion caused by off-kilter angles and sloping terrain. Yet believers maintain there's something inexplicable happening. Whether natural oddity or cosmic portal, the vortex remains an irresistible draw for the curious. Nebraska The Lucky 15. On March 1, 1950, the West End Baptist Church in Beatrice, Nebraska, exploded with devastating force during the evening choir practice, an event that would have certainly killed all 15 members inside. But none were there. Every single choir member, shockingly, was late that night. The explosion, traced later to a gas leak ignited by the furnace in the basement choir loft, leveled the building entirely. Yet by an unbelievable stroke of fate, not one life was lost. Each choir member had a unique excuse: a spilled dress, homework delays, a dead battery, or simply losing track of time, though they were never typically late. Townsfolk soon began whispering of divine intervention, or at least miraculous luck. The event made national headlines, even airing on Unsolved Mysteries. Locally, a jar of the recovered meat shards, no, wrong story, or memorabilia remains in the Beatrice Museum as a testament to inexplicable fortune. The story of the Lucky 15 endures as Nebraska's most astonishing brush with fate. Nevada. Who murdered Tupac Shakur? On September 7, 1996, Tupac Shakur and Death Row CEO Suge Knight were shot while stopped at a red light near the Las Vegas Strip. A white Cadillac pulled alongside and fired 8 rounds. Tupac was struck 4 times and succumbed to his injuries 6 days later at just 25 years old. For decades, the case was cold. Yet on September 29, 2023, authorities arrested Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the first person ever charged in the case. Prosecutors say Davis was the shot caller, having supplied the gun and directed attackers in the back seat of the Cadillac. Davis has pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial, now scheduled for February 9, 2026. Still, controversy surrounds the trial. Davis's defense argues his past confessions were fabricated for fame and money. Suge Knight has made explosive claims, alleging ties between Diddy and the hit, claims Diddy denies, and also speculated Tupac's mother, Afeni, may have refused life-saving efforts. A grand jury indicts Davis, but key witnesses like Orlando Anderson, the suspected triggerman, are now deceased. The case components, a chaotic rap feud, gang tensions, the hurried Vegas investigation, all add layers to this saga. From untested leads and witness silences to the delay of justice, Tupac's death remains a cultural wound. With Davis's upcoming trial, the world may finally glimpse the truth or see the mystery deepen further. New Hampshire. The disappearance of Rachel Girden. On March 22, 1980, 15-year-old Rachel Elizabeth Girden left Rose Corner Market in Newton, New Hampshire, carrying $5 in cash, cigarettes, and chewing gum, then vanished without trace. She had intended to spend the night at a friend's house. Instead, she disappeared into dark country roads. Police suspect foul play fueled by odd circumstances. In 2008, dive teams scoured local ponds. Another tip came in 2013. Both proved fruitless. Despite age-progressed imagery and continued community interest, no body or credible lead has surfaced. Investigators believe Rachel is likely deceased, but who might have abducted her remains unknown. Her disappearance has haunted local memory, featured occasionally in cold case reports, yet has never reached national attention. Today, the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit maintains the file, hoping someone remembers a detail: a stranger's car near Pond Street, a passing truck, a whispered rumor. Until then, Rachel Garden's fate remains frozen in time. New Jersey, the Phantom Sniper of Camden. From late 1927 to early 1928, Camden, New Jersey was terrorized by a mysterious marksman. Over 48 incidents, victims found bullet holes in car windows, storefronts, and even pedestrians, yet no shooter or shell casings were ever recovered. Newspapers of the era chronicled the ghost sniper, leaving the community in fear. Targets appeared random. Buses, cars, and home windows all became crime scenes, but always without explanation and always without evidence of the shooter. Theories ranged far and wide: stray military gunfire from nearby naval exercises, a prankster with homemade firearms, or a haunting phenomenon beyond rational explanation. By 1928, the Phantom Sniper vanished as mysteriously as he appeared. Today, the case lives only in archival clippings and urban legend, a chilling chapter in New Jersey's folklore, a reminder of how fear can grip a community through unexplained acts of unseen violence. New Mexico. What was really going on in Roswell? In early July 1947, a rancher named W. Mac Brazel stumbled upon unusual debris, metallic foil, rubber strips, wooden beams, scattered across his sheep pasture near Roswell, New Mexico. The Army initially announced they'd recovered a flying disc, only to retract it the next day, stating it was a weather balloon. That press release became Exhibit A in what would become the world's most enduring UFO mystery. Decades later, retired Major Jesse Marcel, who handled the debris, became a whistleblower. He claimed it included bizarre materials, hieroglyphic markings, lightweight yet strong alloys that could not have come from conventional sources. His son recalled Marcel describing an object as nothing made on this earth, with a size like a Volkswagen and strange symbols. Skeptics turned to Project Mogul, classified Cold War-era balloons designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Official investigations in the 1990s confirmed debris matched Mogul materials, suggesting the alien story was a smokescreen to protect national security. Yet ufologists, like Kevin Randall, contend a June 2025 released memo referencing victims of the wreck hints at alien bodies recovered from the crash. Most recently, in 2024, the Pentagon convened a task force to vet physical samples from Roswell and Lockheed Martin, though they concluded the materials were terrestrial, not extraterrestrial. Still, Roswell lives on, not just in the UFO museum downtown, but in our collective imagination, hovering between Cold War secrecy and modern-day curiosity. New York. Who was the Leatherman? From about 1857 to 1889, a mysterious figure clad entirely in hand-stitched leather, now dubbed the Leatherman, walked a precise 365-mile loop through Connecticut's western towns and parts of New York. He passed through on the same schedule every 34 days, prompting locals to set out supplies in advance. Nobody knew his name, origin, or purpose. He spoke broken English, and French prayers were found in his pocket, suggesting French-Canadian roots. Town notes show bylaws even exempted him from vagrancy laws, allowing him to travel unhindered. So trusted were the townsfolk that his predictable patterns became part of their routine. In March 1889, the Leatherman died of mouth cancer in a cave near Mount Pleasant, New York. His body was buried in Sparta Cemetery under the inscription Jules Bourglet of Lyons, France, though scholars think that was only hearsay. In 2011, his remains were exhumed and reburied to preserve what little was left. Only coffin nails and soil remained. Today, the Leatherman stands as a folk legend, a man both real and unknowable. His leather garb and devotion to an unchanging circuit beg the question, was he seeking penance, purpose, or peace? Modern storytelling, books, documentaries, local races, keeps his memory alive, yet the heart of his path and persona may remain lost to history. North Carolina, the shadow of the bear. Twice a year, from mid-October through early November and again in late winter, a stunning natural spectacle takes shape on Whiteside Mountain, seen from the Big View overlook along Highway 64 in Cashiers, North Carolina. As the sun dips, it casts a perfect silhouette of a bear onto the valley floor, an event locals call the Shadow of the Bear. For about 30 minutes each evening, crowds gather to snap photos of the giant bear-shaped shadow, a fleeting marvel framed by golden autumn leaves or crisp winter air. Cherokee legend holds that the shadow represents Yanu, descendants of a bear clan who protect the land from unseen spirits. This convergence of geology and myth makes it more than a curious optical illusion. It's cultural and spiritual. Scientifically, the effect is due to precise terrain contours and sun angle, with the mountain's sheer cliffs, up to 4,930 feet, projecting the shape. Though it's a natural phenomenon, many locals and tourists swear they feel something uncanny in that valley, like watching ancestral spirits emerge at twilight. Whether you call it a trick of light or a breath of ancient lore, the shadow of the bear stands as North Carolina's silent sentinel, reminding us that some mysteries lie not in the shadows behind us, but those cast before our eyes. North Dakota, Eugene Butler's crawl space killings. In the early 1900s, wealthy farmer Eugene Butler lived reclusively in Niagara, North Dakota. A quiet man known to neighbors as paranoid, he hired teenage boys for farm work. But after his death in 1913, his legacy turned horrifying. In 1915, workmen dismantling Butler's property discovered a hidden trapdoor beneath his workshop, accessing a crawl space containing 6 skeletons, 5 adults and 1 teenager, all killed by crushing blows to the head. Butler's victims had no marks on their graves. They were dumped in silence and secrecy. Authorities determined he committed the murders between 1900 and 1906, before being declared insane in 1906 and institutionalized, dying in 1913. Over 100 years later, the identities of those 6 remain unknown. Archaeologists now use DNA to attempt identification, hoping families eventually learn their ancestors' fates. The Midnight Rider of Niagara, as he's sometimes called, remains North Dakota's most chilling, unsolved mass killing. His hidden menagerie of murder reveals how evil can lurk beneath quiet exteriors, and that even death may fail to bury the truth. Ohio, the Circleville Letters. From 1976 to 1994, residents of Circleville, Ohio, were terrorized by anonymous missives detailing profound personal secrets and threats. Initial letters accused school bus driver Mary Gillespie of an affair with Superintendent Gordon Massey, then escalated to booby-trapped signs, threatening notes, and harassment of local families. In 1983, a trap placed in Maria Gillespie's mailbox nearly killed her husband with a gun rigged to fire when opened. Mary's brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, was convicted of the attempt despite polygraph failure and compelling alibi testimony. He maintains he was framed by his ex-wife, Karen Sue, though letters continued during his imprisonment. In 1994, Freshour was released. The letters abruptly stopped. Authorities now say the case is closed, but the true identity of the Circleville writer remains unknown, and there's lingering suspicion Karen Sue may have been involved. The Circleville case is a haunting example of small-town fear and its power to leave a community speechless, even mute, prey to an unseen hand, and after all this time, the final chapter hasn't been written. Oklahoma, the Jamison family disappearance. On October 8, 2009, Bobby, 43, Sherilyn, 40, and their daughter, Madison, 6, vanished on a trip to investigate land in Red Oak, Oklahoma. Their truck was found abandoned with $32,000 in cash, IDs, phones, and their emaciated dog. Everything else left behind, almost untouched. Investigators and family were unnerved by their reported trance-like behavior, seen packing in video from their home. Rumors swirled around financial troubles, haunting visions, and spiritual concerns. Some linked them to the Satanic Bible or cult activity. Others speculated they faked their disappearance. In November 2013, hours south of their vehicle, hunters found skeletal remains, 2 adults and a child. July 2014's forensic analysis confirmed they were indeed the Jamisons. Cause of death remains undetermined. Today, their disappearance stands as Oklahoma's most inexplicable mystery. A family lost without semi-belongings untouched, no suspects, no motive, no answers. The silent woods hold their story, and maybe it will stay hidden unless someone comes forward with the key. Oregon, the mysterious shrieks of Forest Grove. In February 2016, residents of Forest Grove, Oregon, awoke to a sound so strange it defied easy description. Described as a giant flute off pitch, a steam whistle, or a one-note violin solo with non-stop feedback. The high-frequency shriek pierced the night air, lasting from 10 seconds to several minutes at random intervals. Local authorities scrambled to investigate. The forestry and public works departments ruled out mechanical sources, while police sifted through 200 calls from spooked citizens. Amateur physicist Andrew Dawes mapped 50 reported occurrences but found no centralized origin, nor any correlation to vehicle traffic, wildlife, or industrial activity. Forest Grove Fire Marshal Dave Niemeyer speculated it might be a faulty attic fan or heat pump, but no conclusive device was ever identified. The noise abruptly ceased by late February 2016 and never returned, leaving the mystery unresolved. Inspired by the phenomenon, a local theater staged a haunted house attraction in October that year, dubbing it Aliens in the Grove. Though long silent, the shriek remains a haunting echo, proof that sometimes the night holds secrets we can't explain. Pennsylvania, the boy in the box. On February 25, 1957, a gruesome scene shocked Philadelphia's Fox Chase neighborhood. The naked, battered body of a 4-year-old boy was found inside a basement furniture box. Nicknamed America's Unknown Child, he was malnourished and severely injured, yet remained unidentified for 65 years, striking fear and compassion alike. In November 2022, the boy finally received a name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Genetic genealogy and DNA phylogenies matched fragments from his remains with distant cousins, leading to his identification on January 13, 1953, and bringing a solemn end to his anonymity. Though the boy has a name, questions around his death linger. Police confirmed blunt force trauma before he was wrapped and abandoned. Captain Jason Smith has said the victim's true family now knows, but the circumstances around his murder remain an uphill battle. In parallel, Philadelphia officials recently exhumed 8 additional bodies from a potter's field, hoping that advanced DNA tools that cracked the Box Boy case can bring identity and solace to others, and maybe assist in solving them as well. Rhode Island, where is Adam Emery? In August 1990, a road rage altercation on a Newport restaurant's parking lot ended in tragedy. 20-year-old Jason Bass was stabbed by Adam C. Emery. Convicted of second-degree murder in November 1993, Emery was released on bail taken by the Claiborne-Pell-Newport Bridge and disappeared shortly after. His wife, Elena, was also missing, their car found abandoned. A female skull later discovered in Narragansett Bay was confirmed to be Elena's. Adam's remains have never been found, and a presumption of death was made in 2004. Yet, as of 2017, the FBI still considered him a fugitive. Despite being officially declared dead, tantalizing clues remain. Sightings on the bridge at night, phone calls intercepted in Florida, and rumors he fled overseas. His case featured on Unsolved Mysteries, and tips still surface. But all leads have dried, leaving a cold file and a family that's still searching. Adam Emery's story is one of a shocking violence, a mysterious disappearance, and the chilling uncertainty that what might feel like an ending could just be the beginning of a fugitive's legacy. South Carolina, the Lizard Man of Lee County. Shortly before dawn on June 29, 1988, 17-year-old Christopher Davis changed a tire near Scape-Ore Swamp and encountered what he described as a 7-foot-tall reptilian humanoid, green, scaly, and possessing glowing red eyes and 3-fingered hands. The creature allegedly clambered on his car before retreating into the swamp. That first sighting was just the beginning. Over the next 2 decades, dozens of witnesses claimed car damage, claw marks, broken windows, and fleeting glimpses of the creature at the swamp's edge. Some alleged hearing growls or seeing massive footprints in muddy banks. Lee County embraced the legend. A Lizard Man festival emerged, including themed gatherings, a statue, brick-and-mortar merchandise, and organized community events. The local sheriff even offered a $1 million reward, which never produced proof. Skeptics cite hoaxes, optical illusions, or known wildlife like large monitors or bears in standing postures. But believers, backed by vehicle damage reports and consistent witness accounts, insist the legend endures. In Bishopville and Browntown, the swamp's shadow still holds claws of mystery. Tennessee, the Craig Miles Mausoleum, aka the Bleeding House. Built in 1872 from imported Italian Carrara marble as a memorial to 7-year-old Nina Craig Miles, who tragically died when the buggy she rode in was struck by a train. This ornate mausoleum in Cleveland, Tennessee, quickly became legendary for one startling feature. It bleeds. Visitors report vivid red streaks seeping from the white stone, especially when fresh family bodies were interred. Despite repeated cleanings, the crimson stains keep returning. Scientific analyses revealed no rust or mold, yet restoration efforts haven't solved the puzzle. Paranormal enthusiasts claim it's a supernatural manifestation of grief, a memorial sorrow brought to life in stone. One popular legend suggests the marble bled whenever a Craig Miles family member died, tying the phenomenon to spiritual unrest. Others believe mineral-rich moisture interacting with the porous marble may create the discoloration. The scientific account suggests it is a natural chemical reaction, but that doesn't stop locals from whispering of Nina's eternal tears. Today, the mausoleum stands as a striking blend of artistry and enigma. Visitors can tour it, but most leave with questions about loss, faith, and stone that seems to weep under moonlight. Texas, the girl behind Amber Alerts, Amber Hagerman. January 13th, 1996. 9-year-old Amber Hagerman rode her pink bicycle near Arlington, Texas, when a man in a black pickup abducted her in broad daylight. Her body was found 4 days later in a creek. bravely gripping her front tire, her throat slashed. The murder remains unsolved, though over 7,000 tips have been investigated without a definitive suspect. Amber's tragic death sparked a nationwide change. A friend suggested using radio waves to alert communities about missing children, and by July 1996, the Amber Alert System, named in her honor, was established. Today, it's credited with saving over 1,200 children across all 50 states. Her mother, Donna Williams, became a tireless advocate for child safety and continues relentlessly campaigning years later. Despite new DNA testing and forensic advances, the killer remains unidentified, but Amber's legacy endures through every alert issued. Amber Hagerman's story is one of heartbreak and hope. Though her own case remains tragically unsolved, her name lives on as a global symbol of vigilance, community, and the fight to protect innocent lives. Utah, Jean-Baptiste's Great Escape. In 1862, Jean-Baptiste, a gravedigger in Salt Lake City, was exposed after stealing burial garments from over 300 graves. Mobs threatened him. Brigham Young and officials chose exile over execution. Justin was banished to Fremont Island in the Great Salt Lake, reportedly branded for robbing the dead on his forehead. Left with supplies and cattle, Baptiste was last seen alive after 3 weeks. Herders returned to find his cabin dismantled and supplies gone. He had built what appeared to be a raft and vanished into lake waters, never to be seen again. Over the years, rumors circulated that he drowned, reached the mainland, or even moved north to become a buffalo hunter in Montana. In March 1893, a skeleton with a leg shackle was discovered near the Jordan River, but officials dismissed it as not Baptiste's, since he wasn't shackled when exiled. To this day, Fremont Island's abandoned structures seem frozen in time, symbols of a grave robber who defied death and justice through mystery. Jean-Baptiste's disappearance remains one of Utah's oldest enigmas, a story of exile, escape, and vanishing into legend. Vermont, the Bennington Triangle. Between 1945 and 1950, a bizarre wave of disappearances plagued southwestern Vermont. 5 people went missing near Glastonbury Mountain in Bennington, vanishing without trace in remote woods. They included Mitty Rivers, 1945, Paula Weldon, 1946, Paul Jepson, 1950, Frida Langer, 1950, and James Tedford, 1949, each disappearance unsolved despite intense searches. Joseph Citro named the area the Bennington Triangle, noting eerie parallels to places like the Bermuda Triangle. Stories soon emerged of UFO sightings, Bigfoot legends, unexplained lights, and a folklore of a cursed or haunted wilderness. Landowners reported odd footsteps, missing wildlife, and disorientation in the woods. Paranormal-minded hikers speak of strange hushes and sudden cold snaps. Despite modern GPS and search and rescue technologies, no definitive pattern or evidence has emerged, only speculation and unsettling theories. Though the Bennington Triangle remains less known outside New England, the vanishings continue to fascinate. It's a place where rugged beauty meets inexplicable loss, and where some say the forest still guards its secrets near the ridge of Glastonbury. Washington, how Jason Paget became a math genius. In September 2002, Tacoma furniture salesman Jason Paget was violently attacked outside a karaoke bar. He was beaten, suffered a concussion, and endured severe PTSD and OCD. But overnight, something extraordinary happened. Jason emerged with the ability to visualize intricate mathematical patterns and geometric shapes where none existed before. He went from viewing the world in discrete picture frames with a line connecting them, as if seeing individual film frames, to sketching overlapping triangles and fractals that revealed complex physics and number theory. His sudden insight into pi, chaos theory, and spatial relationships was so profound that psychiatrists labeled it acquired savant syndrome, one of fewer than 25 documented cases in history. Jason's journey led him to write Struck by Genius, give TEDx talks, and have his life turned into a potential movie. He emphasizes forgiveness, even reconnecting with one of his attackers 15 years later. Despite extensive neurological studies, experts still struggle to explain how head trauma unlocked such genius. Jason Padgett's transformation from ordinary to prodigy challenges our understanding of the brain and leaves open the baffling question: what dormant talents lie within us all? West Virginia. The death of Danny Casolaro. In August 1991, journalist Danny Casolaro arrived in Martinsburg, West Virginia, to investigate a conspiracy he dubbed the Octopus, a tangled web of political scandals involving Iran-Contra, BCCI, and the Promise software affair. 5 days later, he was found dead in a bathtub at Sheraton Hotel Room 517, wrists slashed multiple times, ruled a suicide by authorities. Yet the scene was macabre. Blood spattered on walls, beds untouched, confession notes present. But witnesses reported threatening calls, and FBI reports hinted at possible homicide. His notes vanished, there were signs of a struggle, and unidentified visitors were present before and after his death. In 2024, Netflix's American Conspiracy, The Octopus Murders, brought renewed attention to the case, reviving questions about whether Casolaro was silenced because he knew too much. Despite FOIA releases and family pressure, no conclusive evidence has emerged, and the official verdict remains unresolved. The truth behind Casolaro's death remains uncertain. A tortured journalist overwhelmed by his demons, or a man murdered to protect a sprawling conspiracy? Either way, the octopus still grips our imagination. Wisconsin, the demon bunk bed in the Tallman house. In late 1987, the Tallman family in Horicon, Wisconsin, bought an innocuous bunk bed for their 2 daughters. But within days, their home became a nightmare of poltergeist activity. Alarms triggered on their own, paintbrushes dipped themselves into paint, and the children fell mysteriously ill. The real terror began when small fires erupted inside walls and near the bunk bed, 28 of them throughout the night. Objects moved by unseen forces, eerie whispers filled halls, and shadows danced in the corners. The Tallmans endured 9 harrowing months before desperate measures. They dismantled and destroyed the bunk bed, fled their home, and sold the property. The story lives on through unsolved mysteries, paranormal podcasts, and local legend. To this day, no explanation satisfies. Was it a cursed object, malevolent entity, or mass delusion? For the Tallmans, it was more than haunting. It was an ordeal that changed their lives forever. Wyoming, Devil's Tower. Rising 867 feet from the plains, near the Belle Fourche River, Devil's Tower was declared America's first national monument by Roosevelt in 1906. But its true origin remains mysterious. Geologists propose it's an igneous intrusion, either a lacklith or volcanic stock, slowly revealed as surrounding sandstone eroded. Its hexagonal columns, up to 10 feet wide, are among the largest ever recorded. Yet how molten magma formed these massive vertical joints continues to puzzle scientists. For Native Americans, it is sacred, a bear of legends where giant bear claws scraped the rock's sides. To others, it is mystical, spiritual, even extraterrestrial, bolstered by its role in close encounters of the third kind, tourist secrets. Whether geological marvel, spiritual landmark, or alien beacon, Devil's Tower reminds us that some mysteries are far larger and older than human time. Across the sprawling highways and hidden hollows of America lie stories the textbooks forgot to mention. Stories whispered through generations. Some, like the Amber Alert, turned tragedy into transformation. Others, like the bleeding mausoleums, vanishing hikers, or men swallowed by swamps, never found answers, only questions and silence. From the misty forests of Vermont to the sun-scorched deserts of Arizona, one truth echoes louder than any scream in the dark. Not everything can be explained. Bodies vanish. Voices cry out from beyond. Science tries to catch up, but sometimes the facts only deepen the mystery. We tell ourselves these are just stories, folklore, local legends to scare the kids. But how do we explain the patterns, the similarities across state lines? Why does every town have that one place? A stretch of road, a crumbling house, a field no one dares to enter after dusk? Maybe the land remembers. Maybe the past never really dies. Maybe, just maybe, some doors, once opened, don't fully close. If this episode left you with chills, questions, or a reason to double-check your locks tonight, subscribe, because this journey through America's darkest corners is just beginning. Hit the bell and let the shadows guide you to the next story. The next mystery might be closer than you think.